And we are live.
Hi guys, it's Friday night, and welcome back to our 38th live YouTube session. I haven't done this bit for a while. I'm Wayne Smith. This is Lee Grabham. We always forget, but thankfully Pete does the overlays now, so we don't need to tell you all each time.
You know, I don't actually genuinely know if it's the 38th. I think maybe once or twice I've forgotten to do that number. So it's approximately the 38th.
So as you can probably recognise from the background, we're back in Wormgate at the tasting room. It's York Beer Festival this week, so I'm hoping the beer hall will be really busy with all the people who've been to the festival and are coming here for some cold keg beer afterwards. So we might get a bit of background noise, but hopefully you'll be able to hear us okay. Welcome to all our subscribers, to the audience in the room. Quite a big audience tonight, so we'll get loads of questions from them later on. Yeah, welcome to anyone who's joined us for the first time. I think we might hopefully have some of the subscribers from Brew joining us. It's a subscription box that we put these beers in for the first time ever. And yeah, so Friday nights, we're out having a beer and doing a talk on a Friday night again. So I think a few of you at home are pleased to hear that. And typically, I think Alan and a few of us, I noticed the comments, who were looking forward to Fridays and now are busy, so can't make it. But you'll be able to watch us back like normal.
Yeah, so we have mixed it up recently, experimenting with Wednesday nights, Thursday nights. We're now back onto a Friday. And the conclusion we've reached is that we're going to continue to be indecisive. We're not going to commit to a Friday night. We are going to change it up. Next time, it will be a Wednesday night. Stay tuned to find out where later on.
Tell you why and where and stuff later on. But yeah,
but we are going to be changing the venue up.
Yeah, the day of the week has been. We haven't had any concrete results on what works best, but we know that where we've stayed flexible, it's given us more opportunity to try different things out. So we'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. But
yeah, and what we found from your feedback is some of you liked it moving from a Friday, some of you did not. So if we continue to move it, then we'll be appeasing some of you some of the time.
So we haven't got any collab partner with us today, but we might have a little treat on video clip of it later on. Or maybe we might have one or two video clips. I don't know if we're going to embarrass Sam or not with what we want.
Before we forget, I don't think you did a shout out to Pete and Kerry.
No.
Thank you for hosting last time. Exceptional hosts. Amazing house, incredible what you have in your back garden. Very, very jealous. Would like to have something like that ourselves one day. But yeah, thanks again for hosting us. We had a fabulous time over there. And if anyone else is stupid enough to want to invite us along to their homes, contact us at info@brewyork.co.uk and we'll see what we can do.
So got some interesting beers for tonight's tasting, but one you're going to really need to get out of the fridge if you haven't already. We've got barrel-aged 48-hour road trip coming up. So take it out of the fridge, warm it up. It's a nice summer's day in September, so I'm sure it'll get up to temperature quick enough. And more importantly, if you like the video, click the like button and subscribe if you don't already.
Yeah, I've been seeing in the comments that the suspicion is that this might be the last decent day of the summer. So enjoy it while you can, people.
Yeah, get inside and put the TV on and watch us rather than being sat in the sun.
Right, so we are, as always, going to be doing 4 beers. The first of those is this one here that Wayne's about to start pouring for us. So we've got Avoid Peer Pressure. So following the recent taxation changes, we've done one of these on-trend lower alcohol beers. We've done a 3.4% hazy called Avoid Peer Pressure. Peer in the sense of what you might find at the seaside, because that's been developed with the Green Dragon from Whitby. More on that coming up. We're following that up with the return of a classic. I think it's possibly 2 years ago, the last time we had this one around. When Lemons Give You Life, a lemon meringue fruited IPA. That comes in at 6.5%, I believe. We then follow it up with a 6% sour called the Way to Amaretto, brewed with Unbarred. And that's the latest in our cocktail series. It's an amaretto sour cocktail-inspired beer. And then we conclude with a bit of a change to the lineup. It's not the beer that we said we were going to be doing last month. But because we couldn't make that particular beer available, we've popped in a little barrel-aged treat for you. So you've got barrel-aged 48-hour road trip, which has been aged in rye and akavit barrels. If you want to know what that is, stay tuned. Okay. Also in your boxes, you may have been lucky to receive the third iteration of Hop Sessions, this time made with Cryopop, Amarillo and Talus. You may have also had the re-release of Viva La Guavolution, and you might have had the Sherlock's Pilsner that we recently did with the album chart topping indie band Sherlock's. And one slight apology, we did intend to have the Tooth and Claw collab in this box, which is called Into the Stratosphere. It's a strata-based cold IPA. We couldn't quite get the timing to work, so that's going to be in your box next time out. So as always, when we drink these beers, we'll be talking about anything notable about its flavour, its recipe construction, any process that might be unique to it, why we've called it what we've called it, who we've worked with, why we've worked with them. We'll be going through all that kind of detail, but it's really good if you guys can get involved and chip in with your questions and kind of keep this as interactive and interesting as you possibly can. So to get your questions in, I believe you just type below your video and then they will appear in the comments. And myself and Wayne will either spot it, more likely me, because I think you're going to struggle to read that from there. And if there's a really good question, Pete will pop it up on the screen. Can you do as an example, Pete, to make sure that we don't miss anything? Oh, I've caught him on the hop now. There we go. Evening, guys. So it'll pop up just like that, and then we'll address your question if it is clean enough. Also, as we discuss each beer, we tend to delve into a particular subject. We'll start out talking about highlights of the previous month. We're going to go on to a kind of mini review of the event season. Now we're getting towards the end of that and give you some highlights of a few remaining things that are to come. We're then not going to do another subject immediately after that. We're going to leave it open to do a bit of a Q&A. So here is your prompt now. We want more questions than we would normally get. Because we're going to do an in-depth Q&A, so no questions out of bounds. Let's see what you can come up with. So if we give that a bit more focus, hopefully you'll get a bit more you want out of it, approaching it that way. And then finally, we will conclude with the fourth beer by telling you what you can expect next month in terms of the box and where you can find us on the road.
Yeah, one of the things that came out of the analysis we looked at was the average audience view time. And we like to talk quite a lot, don't we? So our average video is probably 2 hours to 2 hours and a quarter. And I think the average audience view time is about 20 minutes. I don't think it's a reflection of the content. I think it's just our parents just clicking and clicking to try and get the views up. But no, we're trying to make the content a little bit more concise. I say that, but we'll start waffling soon enough.
You sat next to me. That's never going to happen.
And then the toilet breaks will kick in and stuff. But yeah, I think today we could probably do it in less than 2 hours, and then we'll do questions at the end for anyone who wants to stay on.
So final prompt, any questions we may miss that you burningly want an answer to, or you want to be part of the audience, or you have general feedback to share, just email us at info@brewyork.co.uk.
Missing a page.
We're missing a page.
Oh, it's double-sided. That'll be why.
Right. That's beer 3. We want beer 1. There we go.
We're confusing ourselves now. So, yeah, we know what the first beer is. I poured it earlier, and Lee's already told you the name of it, but it's Avoid Peer Pressure. So, like Lee said, 3.4% as part of the new change to taxation. We wanted to try brewing what's classed as a low-alcohol beer now. So anything 3.4% and below gets taxed slightly less, which means we can pass that save on to you guys. And hopefully this beer will be just as appealing as a slightly stronger beer, but it'll be much better priced. The guys in the production team have done a great job of replicating a full-bodied beer with a low-strength alternative. One of the problems that we, personally and from taste and from some of the experience of some of our brews in the past, when you go low strength, you usually lose a lot of what makes the beer taste good or the mouthfeel. So it tastes a bit thin and you don't quite enjoy it as much as you would a slightly stronger beer. And I think the body on this beer from all the grain bill, the grist, has really helped make this beer still taste like it's a bit stronger than it is. 3.4% is strong enough to enjoy, and you can have a good couple of pints of it and hopefully not stumble home or fall off a pier.
So yeah, the UK is the envy of the world when it comes to sessionable beers. So we've always had high taxation on higher strength beers in this country. I say always, since the war, since times of rationing, we've had this. So it's made the UK very specialist in producing these styles and packing the flavour in and packing the body in. So as I said, we're the envy of the world, and we really in this country do have all of the techniques to be able to make that lighter beer feel like that bigger beer.
So this one in particular is Citra, Motueka, and Talus. So Citra is something we use quite a lot. Motueka, we've also used a New Zealand hop. We've used a fair bit in the past. And Talus is something that it's quite a powerful flavour profile. It's probably what I'd consider the most dominant hop in this. We've done a few beers like the Thundertaker. That was Talus, wasn't it?
It was quite
a couple of others
Talus,
in the last couple of years. But it's a really nice hop, and it's really interesting and fresh. And they're all citrusy and quite grapefruity type flavours that you get from these. And I think that the team has done a cracking job with this beer. We were really pleased because it's the first official. I know we have a cask beer, we have Karma Chameleon and Fennec, but it's the first kegged beer we brewed at this strength and launched commercially.
I think Talus gets a bit of a raw deal as a hop. So there's another hop out there called Sabra, and this is the sister hop to it. Came out of the same breeding program, and consequently, people kind of dismiss this hop because of its association with Sabra, and Sabra is about as Marmite as you can get a hop. You absolutely detest it. I love it. Point proven.
Yeah, and Talus is on the borderline for me, so I do like it, but it's almost at that stage where it's too Sabro.
Yeah, and Sabra has this kind of weird, thick pineapple, little bit woody, kind of coconutty thing going on, which is quite divisive. Whereas Talus is really kind of more kind of passion fruit, guavery, that kind of thing, but it still does have that unusual woody back note.
Yeah, and it's quite, like I say, it's quite for me, it's quite prominent because I'm not a huge Sabro fan. The first mouthful for me, I then think Sabro, but then it balances. It tones down and it gets, and I then start to really enjoy it. The beer itself came about as the guys from the Green Dragon in Whitby. If you've never been, you should definitely go. It's a really, really cool bottle shop and tap room and in the just across the bridge in Whitby. They've got a sister venue called Esk Vaults that's opened last year, which again, really nice craft beer venue.
And great pizza.
Yeah, and the food's great in there as well. And we've known the guys for quite a while. They've been good supporters of Brew York. They've stocked our beers pretty much since we've had them in can. And every time we go to Whitby, we always tend to pop in. So not me and Lee, me and Sal and Lee and Polly separately. We holiday there and we all pop in. It's just a really nice place. Really feels like a really friendly locals bar where we haven't been for 6 months and all the regulars still remember you and chat to you and everyone's got their dogs crammed in there and stuff. It's just a lot of fun. It's a nice place to go.
Yeah, it's a lovely venue. It started out as a bottle shop and then they gradually started, they put a bar in and then they've gradually kind of crept the bar across a bit and they've gone about as far as they can with it. And I'd say a push, you maybe get 10, 12 seats in there, would you say?
No, they get about 20 squeezed in there.
20 squeezed.
I don't know how they do, but they do.
But that intimacy means that everybody becomes your best pal. You have to have a conversation because you are pretty close to one another. But it does make for a great evening. Yeah,
and they always manage to squeeze you in at some point, so it's great. And Sal loves it because the wine's so cheap as well. It's about £7 or £8. You get a bottle of wine, so it's a good reason to keep going back.
A bottle?
Yeah.
Some places you pay that for a glass.
They keep it in the fridge for you, so you don't have to obviously drink it all at once. So for me, it's great because it's a hook for us to get people to keep going back whenever we're there.
So my wife Polly's behind camera as well, and I can see the look on her face. Go, why have we never had wine now?
But yeah, Whitby's got a close place to my heart. I went to boarding school. I was sent there when I was a kid. When my parents were in the army and based in Germany, I used to go to school in Robin Hood's Bay, which is just up the coast. So I spent a lot of my childhood in Whitby. So it's nice to go back there now and to find that there's a venue that supports us that we try and support back. So they got in touch and said, "Do you want to do a beer for our? We're doing a Whitby Beer and Spirits Con. They do it each year. It's a festival over the bank holiday weekend, and we like to work with them on it." And we jumped at the chance, thought it'd be brilliant. And then they said they wanted a beer for the festival. So we came up with this. They came up with a name, which I thought was really clever. And we you know how we like puns. So we thought it was a pretty clever pun. And then the guys at United by Design did a really cool job of bringing the Whitby background into it and a few little Easter eggs in there.
Yeah, you should be able to spot, well, you can see the Abbey, and then flying above the Abbey is a green dragon. I've been trying to find the whalebone. Why the whalebone should be there, should it not? Maybe that's
that'll get people looking. I don't think it isn't there. There's very phallic clouds in there and stuff. They weren't the Easter egg. I don't think anyway.
Enough about that.
But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this beer. It's something I'd like the production team to do a little bit more of. So when we bring our next special out, we've got lots of different specials coming up as always. But I'd really like to see a variation of this. So that malt backbone with some different hop combos.
Oh, definitely.
Pretty good.
Definitely. So rather randomly, you and I, Sally, Polly, we weren't able to make it across at the weekend for the festival, but my sister happened to be holidaying in Whitby and with her girlfriends ended up at the festival. And the first thing she tried to try was this. And even though we'd sent them 2 kegs of it and 2 kegs that were bigger than they'd originally asked for, it sold out. It was the most popular beer there.
Yay!
So yeah, the festival tries to pour as much beer as possible. So the request was for beer in 20-litre kegs, and yeah, we accidentally.
Right, that one's on me. We have a packaging spreadsheet where you put in the numbers, and I put it on the wrong line. So something else got packaged into 20 litres, and this didn't. So they had to buy 2 30 litres off us instead. So from a sales perspective, I upsold.
And if you like this beer. Unfortunately, the cans have just sold out now from the brewery, so we will probably still have a few cans on the website and in shops out and about, but it won't be around much longer. But we've still got a small amount of keg left, so it'll be on in the tap room and a few on-trade venues for probably the next few weeks. But yeah, I'm really pleased with what the guys did there, and special shout out to Jack, who I don't know how much involvement he had in it, but I definitely think it was one that he had quite a lot of involvement in the recipe.
Jack being our apprentice brewer. So yeah, he's had him and Tom, I think, were quite involved with this particular one. And if someone else in the team was involved, apologies for not mentioning. So this is yet another collab. You'll note that we do a lot of these things, and hopefully you'll also note that we've kind of been branching out a bit, and we've been working with companies outside of beer, and that's something we plan to do a lot more of going forward. So we wondered, what is your opinion on who we should be working with, either in beer or not in beer? So it could be like a coffee roastery, a bakery, it could be a charity, it could be whatever. What would you like to see us working with coming along? So you start to get your comments in, and then Pete will flash up some of the better ones later on.
Little blondie bakers down the road. Who? Oh, they're really good. You know where Florries used to be? Oh. Little blondies make. They've got really good coffee, and the cakes are amazing.
You one on me, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be working with them next year then. Right, so at this point we move on to the highlights of the month. So do you want to start us off with either your work or personal highlights?
Personal, it was nephew's first birthday, little Sonny. We went to Althorpe Lakes Park, which is just near Pocklington. Never been before. I didn't really know much about it, and was very surprised just how popular it was, and really nice to sit outside and chill out with the family and stay out the sun because it was surprisingly hot. So that was my personal highlight. Work. Yep. It's got to be the return to Leeds International Beer Festival. It's always a highlight in the calendar each year. A lot of work and effort goes into making sure we get the right setup there, the beers and everything, and just really nice to get there and see people. Well, hopefully you guys all who are tuning in tonight, queuing up and enjoying our beers there, and just getting a chance to hang out with people. So a lot of fun, and we all went as well. So we've managed to get Sal and Polly down for probably the first time. We all headed down on this Saturday. It was a real good day out, although very, very warm. Seems to be a theme at the moment.
Very warm and starting to drink so early, combined with the dehydration. I was a sorry mess by early evening.
I managed to get back home in time for the rugby and proceeded to scream up the TV for 2 hours, but to a pleasing result for a change.
Oh, awesome. So yeah, my highlights, greedy as always from a personal perspective. I have a couple. I had a family meal out with Polly, my mum, my stepdad, my sister, and my brother-in-law, which was kind of a belated gift from myself and Polly for Mother's Day, Father's Day, various birthdays, things we promised to do for some time. So we finally got to do that. And I also had an amazing time at Peak Ender, to the point that I had to stay there till about 1-2 p.m. on the Sunday because I would not have been legal to drive. So that was a fantastic time. And from a work perspective, just last week I was down in Worcester at the Charles Farnham Brewery Roadshow and Hop Walk. So the Hop Walk is you walk through a hop field and you get to see all of the wonderful raw materials that you're hopefully going to be working with in the field growing wild. And it's a spectacular sight. It really is quite unique to see these telegraph poles with these wires and hop growing, and then you go and see how they get taken and how the hop cones are ripped off the vines and then processed. So that was really cool. And the day before the actual walk, they did what they call a Brewery Resource Roadshow. So it was a number of the main suppliers in the UK doing seminars on things that might be changing in the industry. And for someone who's a bit of a science geek like me, it was great. So we got a talk with Axel from Weiermann's, who's the big German maltster. And myself and Tom, our head brewer, picked up a few tips on how we might be able to improve our lagers. And then we talked with the TNS guys who do hop products. And this is true geekery. They've given us a pointer on how we can make the foam on the top of our beers a little bit creamier and tighter. So there'll be some tweaks we'll be making to our beers to reflect that. And I love being at the forefront of these kind of things and finding out what's happening in the industry and making sure that we're on top of it.
I didn't know it was in Worcester. We were there in June, at the start of July, and on the way down to Newquay. What was the name of the breakfast place we went to? Put you on the spot, but we had some nice food and drink there, and then there was this breakfast place there where you got amazing hash browns and all sorts just stacked in your plate. It was really, really good. We'll try and remember it before we get to the end of it. If you could,
me and Tom actually stayed in Malvern, which is just over from there, because that was going to be nearer to the farm. In hindsight, we should have stayed near Worcester because the pub crawl was on the first night.
Right.
And we stayed in a Wetherspoons hotel, which was absolutely spectacular. It had this amazing veranda out the back that overlooked the Malvern Hills. Mm-hmm. And because it was a beautiful sunny day, you could have mistaken it for being in the Mediterranean. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was a very romantic setting for me and Tom to have our breakfast in, yes. Okay. I think we're due to move on to the second beer. Or should we do a few questions first, Pete? Because we're not quite ready for the next beer. From Joanna Rawling, who's that? Joanna has been with Brew York for quite a while and moved around Wales. Used to run POC for us, now heads up our sales admin. And she has the question, I can see Christmas is coming. Have the elves started packing the beers yet? And will there be enough for everyone?
It's like the Coca-Cola truck thing. It's started already. The only Christmas beer that hasn't been packaged yet is the Barrel Aged Nightmare. So, the elves have well and truly been busy at the moment. So I haven't tasted any, but I know that I saw Pete handed out a few underfills for some taste testing the other day.
So we've only just brewed the cask version of Fairy Tale as well. So that won't be around for another 2-3 weeks. But yeah, the rest of it, there's a decent volume out there and it's selling well already. It's incredible how early people's appetites are for. Someone in the audience has one of the beers.
No, they don't, because they've definitely not left the brewery site for quality control.
Okay. What else we got? Ian here from Newcastle. So, brew your beer question. I absolutely love rye malting beers. What styles do you think rye works well in? And any plans for some interesting rye-based beers?
Red IPAs, maybe?
Sure. Red IPAs is the obvious one, but rye, with it being kind of peppery, you can use it like a seasoning. So, you do salt and pepper. So session IPAs, low strength things like this, if you use rye, like about up to 5%, it can add an interesting dimension to it, which you wouldn't associate with rye. You won't taste it as rye, but it brings something else to the beer.
Rye rise, mate.
We have one coming up later, Rye Imperial Porter. So I would say any form of stout. Stouts are about complexity. So if you want to add another dimension to a stout, the introduction of rye can be a great thing. I think that's probably enough to be going on with.
We might be, I don't know if anyone's seen the rumours yet. If anyone's on Twitter, X, as it's called nowadays, when we were at Peak Ender, we caught up with Andy from Elusive, a good friend of ours, and the guys from former Beer O'Clock show Opinions podcast, but now
Belonging.
Yeah. It was a reunion. So if you remember, we brewed Red Dancing with those guys. God, was it 18 months ago? Feels like a while ago. Yeah. And one of their partners took a photo of us all together and said, if we can get 100 likes on X, can we rebrew an imperial version of Red Dancing? So Impy Red. I like to call it Super
Ted. We're going to call it.
And yeah, we managed to get 100 likes on it. So this is relatively breaking news because we did agree we'd rebrew it down at Elusive and do the double version. But what we haven't told anyone yet is it's actually going to launch at our birthday in April. So super spoiler alert. Can you guess who one of our invited breweries might be for our birthday in April?
You actually mentioned the name yet?
I've said Andy.
Oh, you did say Andy at least, right? Okay.
And we're going to go down and brew that with Andy, and he's hopefully going to bring it up in time for our birthday.
Awesome.
So that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I think Andy is the UK master of the that kind of style, your West Coast style, your red styles, your black IPAs. So it could not be in better hands.
Yeah, hoppy and malty beers, which we always mention this. It's something that we love, but you guys at home don't seem to love it as much. And then I said that, and then the latest Red Pandas sold rapid. So that's not going to be around too long. Which, you guys will get it in your box.
I think it's in the box next month.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was tasting lovely. I had a little can of that at home the other day. Next one, so Adam Davison. Are you going to be making low ABVs for January? So I think our 2024 planning session, our first one is next week, isn't it? So I think we would have to imagine we will be doing, but we haven't actually done the planning for that yet. That starts next week, led by Rachel, our head of marketing.
So I don't know how many people at home or in the audience drink a lot of low ABV beers, but you might have noticed our low rider hasn't been around for a while. So we have a new low ABV beer coming out next month. So I'm not going to tell you too much about that because we haven't got the branding sorted. We have the name, but I'm not going to do the spoiler right now. We might do it later. But that's coming out next month. We're excited to have that going to crop into the lineup. And hopefully you guys will enjoy it and it'll justify doing a because that will be around regularly, but we'll do hopefully a special in January as well.
Can we get the audience online to guess the name of
They'll never guess it. I would never guess that. But,
the suggestion was from the audience, should we get you to guess the name of the low alcohol beer? You're welcome to try, but I would be surprised if you were to get it.
It's an animal and it has low in the name.
All right, now you've got a reasonable chance of getting it. Okay, let's see what you come up with. Right, so let's move on to the second beer. So the second beer we have is a beer making its second appearance. I think we've only brewed it once before.
Yeah, we brewed. I think it's the third time we brewed it, but we brewed a extra. Different version of it.
Yeah, sorry. No, this is the third appearance because we did a standard version and extra vanilla, and now we've made the standard version. What was the extra vanilla?
Well,
yeah, tart.
No. Like really,
I'm just calling you a tart.
So it's not a sour, and that's the thing about this beer. It's actually it's your beer to talk about. But
carry on. I was drinking.
No, I was just going to say it's sharp because it's got lemon in it, but it's not a sour beer. It's not intended to be a sour beer, and I always forget that. I keep thinking we brew a sour meringue beer, and then I realise it's not, and it's just really refreshing. I find.
Yeah, so what we have here, it says milkshake IPA. It's produced to the random style of the ice cream IPA that was pioneered by Tired Hands over in Pennsylvania in the US. So they were the first one to conceive of this type of style. And basically, you're just trying to load up on the cream and the haze and the body of the beer. And one of the things that they introduced, which we've done with this beer, is to take apple puree and you put it into the kettle. It contributes nothing by way of flavor, but it just builds the body and it delivers pectin, which is like a fruit protein that kind of hangs around in the beer and contributes to the body and the haze. So we have apple puree in here. Into the boil, we also put some lemon zest. And then I think it's hopped with Citra Mosaic. Yeah, I thought so. And then after the fermentation, or towards the end of the fermentation, we put in some lemon concentrate to give it that tang. Towards the end of the kettle boiling, I should have said, we would introduce some lactose and some maltodextrin. So the lactose gives it that kind of creamy kick. And then we've also got some vanilla that goes in at the end. So like Wayne says, the first mouthful is kind of tart, kind of tangy, but then it rolls into the kind of creamy finish of the lactose and the vanilla. So you get that kind of meringue-like character to it. So I think the balance of this beer is great because it does take on a little bit of a roller coaster in terms of the flavour profile.
And it's pretty easy drinking. Thankfully, we had no technical hiccups then because Pete lost the weep steak today. I guess.
Oh, you've been out?
Yeah. So
Wow.
it wasn't me for a change, but I guess Pete doesn't really count on the weep steak, so I think Lee's going to lose.
So Bill 702260, yeah, easy surname. Thanks, Bill. This is a fantastic beer. Tastes like lemon meringue. Awesome work. Thank you very much, dude.
Yeah, it's always pleasing when we manage to get the flavour profile replicated of what we were trying to hit. And I think this, you get all the different elements, and when you're drinking it, you just think of meringue. And so I don't know where I was the other day. I was at the beer festival in Leeds, and I gave someone a taster of it, and they didn't know the name of the beer. Like, wow, that's just like lemon meringue. I was like, oh, it's funny that.
Well, you can't get a better compliment than that, then, can you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so fantastic. So, and the name itself, you'll hopefully see, is a spin on a bit of a phrase about positivity. So, I think the original phrase is, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So, this one is, when lemons give you life.
Make beer.
Make beer, yeah. So, it's about trying to be positive in life. And for us, that's what beer's supposed to be about. There's enough crap going on elsewhere in our lives that when it comes to socializing and drinking beer, it's nice to leave that behind and just focus on the positives. So that's what this beer is about.
Made its first appearance back in COVID times, wasn't it? So back in 2020.
Yeah, well, I think we all needed a bit of positivity back then, didn't we? Yeah.
So we on to the events.
I believe so. So we aren't quite at the end of the event season, but we do have the bulk of the events behind us now. So we thought it'd be a good point to have a little reflection on the season and talk about what our personal highlights have been of the season, where it's gone well, where it's not gone so well. And we want to throw this out to you guys as well. So if you've been out on the road and you've either seen us or other people at festivals around the country, what's been your favourites? What stood out, whether that be a brewery, the organisation of the event, a particular beer? Let us know what you think, and we'll get some comments up and we'll pick a few out in a bit.
So I put down my favourite event so far this year, being London Craft Beer Festival. It's just a fun festival to go down to. We obviously go to lots of different festivals, but this one, going back to our first appearance when we were in that big sweaty vault. But there was 5 of us down there. We didn't stop working for 3 days solid. It was just so busy and so eye-opening that to reach a new audience. We enjoyed it so much that it was a great festival. And every year we've gone back, we've kind of done it slightly different each time. And this year again, the team did a great job of running the bar because we were in a greenhouse effectively. It was so warm and there was glass above us. But the festival is just a lot of fun. So
yeah, it's a stunning venue. It's Tobacco Docks. So you're inside the kind of old, I guess it would have been the storage and processing area for whatever came off the ships. And there's a galleon out there. You can go and have your pint of beer or your lunch next to the old galleon. And it really is a spectacular venue, but it's very low ceilinged and there's lots of glass. So if it's a warm day, which it almost always seems to be when this festival comes around, it does get seriously warm in there. When we had that vault, it was a case of people would run in, grab a drink and run away. Yeah, we had to stay there and serve. So yeah,
and then we went for a couple of beers afterwards in the area. So
that was good.
And then we went to a place called the Prospect of Whitby. It was a really
it was the thing for today, isn't it?
Yeah, a random pub that I don't think we'd have stumbled across normally. And one of our importers took us there, and it was just such a great little pub on the riverside. And we were drinking lager.
I think. I was just trying to remember which one.
It was that Keller beer, wasn't it? I can't remember whose Keller beer, but someone had done a Keller beer.
It was one. No, it was one of the Germans, wasn't it?
And just the location made it such a fun, enjoyable place to go and visit that we weren't really that bothered about what we were drinking. It was just a nice place to go. So I'll definitely like to go back there at some point. Maybe next time me and Sal go down to London, we'll make our way out there and check it out.
Yeah, and for me, once again, I'm being greedy. I have two. So Polly came and joined me at Leeds International Beer Festival, and it is very rare for either Sally or Polly to join Wayne and I at one of these festivals. So Polly came along, and we tried to ignore everyone else and just enjoy our time together at the festival, which was lovely.
We are obviously.
I'm being told off for saying ignore everyone. We did totally ignore everyone, but we went off and did our own thing, which was nice.
When hopefully we've managed to meet quite a few of you guys at different festivals and events we do, but we are still very geeky and chatty, so it's not a great prospect for Sal or Polly to accompany to us a beer festival, and all we do is go and talk to everyone about beer all the time. I'm sure they're sick of us talking about beer, so it's nice when we can get them to come to a festival, because it means that they're tolerating our obsession with beer for even more than they normally do, and we appreciate that. So thank you.
So yeah, thank you. Yeah, genuinely.
So what was your number two then?
My other one would be Peakender. So Peakender, I think, has a special place in both our hearts, and I think it does for the brewing industry. It's quite a unique festival. It's a camping one, and it's not just about beer. There are some talks and things. There are spirits, as you will well remember. Don't often drink spirits, and that got you in trouble on night one. But it's also
looking at me now. I didn't get in trouble. It just means
but it's also a music festival as well. But it's just good, light-hearted fun. Like last year, Alan, who's at Thornbridge, posted a video of me dancing to an ABBA tribute act. It's that, think wedding bands. It's that kind of thing. And this year it was it called Gods of Rock? Something like that?
Yeah, they were good.
And they did like AC/DC and all that kind of stuff. And apparently Alan has a video of me dancing to them, which we'll probably make it on social media at some point as well. But yeah, it's just a really great event to go to, where the team at Thornbridge, who host the festival, really look after you. There's an area where us brewers can go in and they lay on free beer. So yeah, you'll often find us in there.
It's beer and snacks, and it's the guys from Bathhouse put all the snacks on.
One of our hot suppliers.
And then Thornbridge put the beer on. So we'll just hang around there, because being really lazy, it means we don't have to go get food all the time. We just keep eating. There's olives, there's Jaffa cakes, and all the random healthy snacks that you need at a festival.
But what's great about the festival is they just buy in the beer from lots of breweries like ourselves. There's no expectation on us to work. They just invite us to come and have a social. And lots of people in the industry do go there. So it's one of the few times where we all get to get together and get to socialize without any of us having to actually do any work.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It was a great festival, and unfortunately for us this year, in terms of the bit we're going to go on to next about calamitous festivals, nothing to do with the Thornbridge guys, but the Airbnb that we tried to book this year to bypass the camping got condemned about 2 to 3 weeks before the festival, at which point every other Airbnb in and around Bakewell was already fully booked. So I personally don't mind camping. I was just hoping to have a bit of a nice, like, fancy side to Peakender this year, but we ended up having to camp. And yeah, the weather.
And it gave me an excuse to buy a new fancy air tent. Anyone seen these air tents? It's amazing. So you kind of anchor it down, and then you get like a bicycle pump. And rather than having to put all those little poles together that then do the kind of bit across like that, it just goes. It's brilliant.
There's the YMCA for you.
Yeah, no, it says you can have a tent up in about 30 minutes. It took me an hour because it was my first time, but next time I'll have it up in 20.
It was it's a great festival, and hopefully we get an invite back next year, and I'll get the Airbnb booked well in advance. Pete got his Airbnb sorted; his didn't get condemned.
And now I need to camp because I need to justify the price of what I just paid for that air tent.
But yeah, in terms of calamitous events, we did have a lot of fun this year at Nottingham Craft Beer Festival. We couldn't make it to the festival. We were at another festival, can't remember which one. But the team who went, anything that could go wrong did go wrong. So the Jess, our York sales rep, and her partner set off in the car to drive down, and they broke down halfway there. Michael, who works in our bar in Pock, who's also Joanna's partner, he missed his train. I can't remember what caused that. Bus didn't turn up, so then he missed his train. Joanna was supposed to be working, it was poorly. The terror attack happened on Nottingham the week before. Watters, who does a lot of events and web shop for us, helped out and drove the bar down to set up, left the van outside the festival, which we got a parking ticket on because he just left it parked on the street like you do. And there was just one thing after the other. It was just non-stop. But
so it was a great festival once the team got on the way, but it did feel a little bit doomed for a while.
And thankfully, it was really popular, and you guys seemed to enjoy it because the team had a great time. But yeah, that was a bit of a challenging one.
And then, Pete, do you want to pop on screen what yours was? He's got a microphone ready, but he's not got it turned on because he didn't realise I was going to come to him that quickly.
I'm going to stay over here. Today people can hear me from here, but yeah, I had a cracking time down at Roosters, Suds with Buds. I thought it was a cracking festival. First time I've been to that event. I think we've done it quite a few times before, but yeah, I thought it was absolutely a cracking event. And certainly the after party they held on the Saturday evening, I thought that was absolutely cracking. I think so. Some of my favourite memories when I've worked events like that has always been like, the time we actually get to spend, like chat with our friends, like from other breweries in the industry. So yeah, thought it was a cracking event, and yeah, they looked after us well.
I mean, that is a fairly typical event or festival, isn't it? Where by the time you guys are getting home, we're just getting going.
Yeah.
And then usually there's someone like North who will line up some Bloody Marys from the morning after to kick us all back into life.
Yeah. Shout out to North and their Bloody Marys.
Yeah. The next one's the most drunken festival on the list.
For both of us, Peakender.
So the Peakender bars close at 10 o'clock, or is it 10 or 11? I think it's 11. I think it's like a normal closing time. So by the time the main part of the festival finishes, I'd say both nights I was in a pretty good state. But the first night I was in the VIP camping bit. I wasn't camping there, but the guys from Thornbridge were having a chat with them, and they had a little area set up, and everyone was bored of the beer by then, and they had one of the spirit manufacturers camping next to them, who passed me a pre-mixed Negroni in a car screen wash 2-litre jerry can thing. Do you want to try some of this? I was like, no, what is that? Anyway, they poured me some, and it was really, really nice. But that's what I blame for my hangover the next morning. It was.
And one thing you need to understand about Wayne is he doesn't do spirits. He never ever drinks spirits. I like a whiskey personally, and I'll do the odd other thing. But yeah, you never get involved with that, do you? So why did you?
I'd say you were sensible at that point in time, but you weren't sensible. You'd got taken yourself to bed because you'd had enough.
No, you popped off. He popped off to the bar to get me a pint. I'd kind of forgotten this, decided I'd had enough, and went back, and he came back with a pint, and I was nowhere to be seen.
So it knocked on the tent, as you do with
Rob, brewing director from Thornbridge. He was insisting that I had to get back out of bed, which was not going to happen.
And by this time, that was probably about midnight, so you needed your beauty sleep at that point.
Oh, I'm always in need of that.
But we've got a few more events. The event season hasn't finished yet, and we've got quite a lot of events going on here in York as well as out on the road. So Food and Drink Festival's coming up in a few weeks' time. Actually, a week's time. It's a week today, isn't it?
The 21st it starts, I believe. Is that would make it the Thursday?
I think I know it's the 22nd.
Oh, all right. Well, I know the 23rd's a Saturday because I'm doing one of the events now. Yeah. So yeah, 22nd.
So loads of different events going on. So they have a couple of bars set up there. So we're supplying beer to the bar this year, and we're hosting a lot of different tasting events for them to try and help promote the event. So we've got a couple of them here, and then a couple of them across at the actual Parliament Street. What's the first one? You're doing a cheese one, aren't you?
So I think it's 5 p.m. on the Saturday. I'm getting a thumbs up from Pete, so that must be correct. I'm doing, alongside Jordan from Love Cheese, a beer and cheese pairing event. Sorry? Oh, it's sold out. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So if you like,
sorry guys, it's sold out. I shouldn't be plugging this.
Interest, and we need to do a follow-up event here because I want to be part of it. I love cheese and beer.
Like 3 days. very, very.
Oh, apparently that sold out in 3 days. So I'm just teasing you all at this point in time. Sorry.
Cheese it.
I'm teasing you all. But there is another one that hopefully there's tickets left for. So Digby, our events manager, is bringing back the beer and cake pairing that we did with Patisserie Valerie previously. Do we have tickets for that one? We do. How many?
Some.
Enough. We have enough. We have somewhere between some and enough. Okay. So, that is on the 24th. I think that would be the Sunday, would it? In fact, we're going to confirm all these dates at the end.
You could maybe type it into the comments at some point, or,
Yeah.
or put a link to the events page. That'd be.
But this is the most involved we've been with the food and drink festival. So we've lots lined up. And one of the things we have lined up is a comedian that is doing a beer-related comedy show here in the, I presume, in the Hoptail Lounge?
Yes.
Yeah. And that comedian, James Dowdeswell, has put together a little video as a promo, which we're now going to play to you.
You're going to say catchphrase.
Roll VT.
Hello, my name is James Dowdeswell. I'm a comedian and a big fan of Brew York. I'm looking forward to tasting this on draft next Saturday, on 23rd of September, where I'm doing my stand-up show about beer at 7 o'clock at the Brewery Tap. Here's a clip of my stand-up to give you a flavour. Cheers.
Now, I like a drink, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll tell you how much I like a drink. Last week, I phoned the Alcohol Advice Centre. I said, I've got a drink problem. They said, how can we help? I said, what wine goes best with Cocoa Pops? Rosé, apparently.
Nice. Thank you. Okay, so dates and times on that one, Pete? Or should we just confirm that at the end?
That is the 23rd.
Oh, that's
yeah.
23rd. That's
week
7
today.
o'clock at night in the Hoptail Lounge here.
And ticket sales have gone pretty well. There are still some available, but there's not going to be available for too much longer. So get them while you can. I think it's £9 a ticket, so it's pretty reasonably priced. And the intention is to try and gauge interest in how these type of things work, so we can do more of them in the future. And hopefully you guys enjoy it. I'd love to go, but we're on holiday.
And I'm doing a cheese event.
Cheesy.
Okay. Have we any more questions at this point in time, Pete?
Oh, we've got one in the room.
Oh,
The festivals you've been to this year, which beer has inspired you the most?
There's a question from the audience saying, of all the festivals we've been to this year, which one's inspired us the most?
no, which beer?
Beer.
Which beer?
Which beers inspired us the most? As soon as I arrived at your beer festival on Wednesday, I'd literally had one half of a random beer. I didn't even choose it. I kind of just said, oh, that one, I'll give it a go. And the journalist from the York Press came up. He said, oh, hi, Wayne. Do you want to do something like... And he asked me a load of questions. Like, what's your favourite beer so far? I was like, I literally have only just had one. He's like, okay, what is it, that one? He started writing it down. I was like, I didn't say that was my favourite. I said, I haven't had another beer yet. He's like, oh, you're going to do loads of research and see what your competitors are doing. I was like, no, I've come to just chat to the other brewers and socialise, and whatever's near me, I'll drink. And that's kind of the approach I tend to take at festivals now. I don't necessarily go to try the other beers. I go to talk to and catch up to the other people. And then usually you end up finding a really good beer on the back of that. So I think my favourite one I've had so far this year was probably just chatting to Andy at Elusive, and he did a triple Oregon Trail. So there's a triple IPA version of Oregon Trail, which is a very, very good West Coast beer. And I didn't go to drink that. I just went literally to chat to him, and I had a bit of it. And I was like, wow, I can only have a small amount of that because that's about 10%. And it doesn't taste anything like it. So really enjoyed it, but I didn't drink much of it.
Well, if you're having the triple, I'm having the Imperial Red. Yeah, he did an Imperial Red version of Oregon Trail, which was absolutely stunning. Hopefully it'll be somewhat Super Ted ends up being like.
Yeah.
So definitely that. I would say the other thing I've enjoyed this summer going around the festival circuit, and I never thought these words would come out of my mouth, is I've enjoyed a lot of the lagers. I know. I wish the audience at home could have seen your face then. My wife is stunned as well. Because we do sample a hell of a lot of beer, and there's a lot of artistry that goes into the creation of a lager, and there's a lot of skill in keeping it as clean, as pure as it is. And particularly like the early part of this season when it was so blisteringly hot, I've got to admit, a little Pilsner at that kind of time, a really well-produced Pilsner, is the perfect thing for those type of weather conditions. And we've got a couple of lagers in our range now. So it's nice to taste other people's so we can see how we compare. And I think we do pretty well. But I think there are, as I said earlier, some areas in which we can improve, and we're looking to do that.
It did amuse Lee to no end on Wednesday at the York Beer Festival when I was walking around with a pint. He's like, "What's that?" I was like, "It's Osprey,
A pint of our own lager.
our American light lager." He's like, "What are you drinking that for at York Canberra Beer Festival?" I was like, "Because I fancied it." I knew it was on, and I knew I liked it, so I was like, "I'll have a pint of that." And I should have probably drank a little bit more of the cask beer there, but it was also. Again, it was a warm day. I just wanted to drink something.
But I think you also like to do a bit of QA, don't you? See how well our beer's travelled, how well it's been served.
Yeah,
and
one of the first things I do tend to do is try and drink all of our beers. Not at Leeds when we were pouring the 22, but at York Canberra Festival we only had 3 cask on and 1 keg, so it's not too hard to sample each of them and make sure that they're pouring and representative of what the beer should taste like. Because what we don't want to do is people to come and try our beer maybe for the first time and it's not what it should be. So it's quite important to do. And and I had a feeling the lager was going to taste nice, so I went for a pint of it.
Yeah, well, good question. It prompted a lot of discussion, and this is how we'll never curtail the actual time of this session because we do get led easily astray like that. Okay, what else have we got, Pete?
What's your fringe beer today?
My fringe beer is Stone's All Day IPA. Is that right? Go to IPA. Sorry.
Same as me.
So Phil T has asked us, are there any plans for any more cold IPAs in the future? Actually, we brew one in 2 weeks' time. You can ask me further details about it if you want, but I've not done the recipe yet, so I've got nothing to share.
And we've got the one with the away collab we did with Tooth and Claw, so that's going to be in your box next month if you're a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, it'll be poured in our bars probably in a couple of weeks' time, but it's out in the public domain. You're probably most likely to find it in a Head of Steam venue. Head of Steam are owned by Camerons, who own Tooth and Claw, so you usually see a lot of their beer in those venues. Yeah,
so it's a style we love. I think we've just said that we both are into the lagers now. Took me a while. And we also like West Coast IPAs, the bitterer and a clearer, more resinous type IPAs were our kind of first love in craft beer. And basically the cold IPA is the middle ground of the two, the clean kind of crisp malt bill of the lager, but hopped at the rate that you would with a West Coast and bitter in the way that a West Coast would be. So yeah, it's a style that we love. I think when we do this next one, it'll be the 4th one we've done in-house, and it'll be the 6th one we've done overall because we've done a couple as collabs as well. Any more, Pete?
So another one from someone called Joanna Rowland.
J.K. Rowland.
Nice. So yeah, the designs on the cans continue to be great. How much input do you have on the can designs? You want to go first?
Well, yeah, with all the different beers we come up with, we put a branding brief together for the guys at United by Design who are on the top floor of this building, and we try and give them some steer. They do their best work when they get full creative freedom. If we just give them the name and then they can go away and do it. But sometimes it's really hard to do that because we've already got something set in our mind and we want to go down that route. So the avoid peer pressure at the start was very much, we'd already said, we've got this idea, it's more like a railway, the old-fashioned railway pictures, but it needs to incorporate this from the Whitby scenery. And we sent a couple of example pictures to the guys. And to be fair, they did their spin on it and did it really, really well. It wasn't anywhere near what we'd sent them, but it was really, really good, so we went with it. And then sometimes, what was the... that was a long time ago when we did that last one.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't really a universal answer to this. It used to be that myself or Wayne would come up with a name, we'd have a vague idea, and then it'd get passed over to Owen, and then he would bring our ideas to life. These days, more often than not, we will say to Pete or Rachel in the marketing team, we've done a cold IPA. You need to name it, you need to brand it. But there is still the odd occasion now where I'm thinking like the collab we did with Real Ale Craft Beer, where we will name the beer and we'll have a bit of a clear idea about what the brand needs to look like. And then they still have to go away and bring our ideas to life. So that one I'm not going to talk too much more about because I think that's in your box next month. So we'll be covering that one then.
So yeah, they're the harder ones to nail because we've got this preconceived idea of what it should look like, and more often than not, we get there in the end. But sometimes,
that makes it more challenging because like Owen at United by Design will send a picture to him and we go, no, that's not what I've got in my head. It's like he's supposed to be able to know what that is. Yeah, I can see Pete smiling because Pete gets stuck in the crossfire of these particular ones.
But sometimes, so Hey You Gals, the original, was dead easy because we just said what the beer was, what it was based on, and the artwork was brilliant. And because we were carried away because the middle of COVID, we didn't use our normal common sense and checking things, and we just went with it. And once we had to change the name of the beer and we got it simplified to what it is now at HVG, we loved that because that was just a cartoonified version of what we already had, but getting rid of all the infringement.
I think that's one of the best brands we've ever created, and we can never use it again, unfortunately.
So it is interesting, man. But yeah, we have a great relationship with the guys at United by Design. I think they come up with some great stuff with us. The work they're doing at the moment for our signature range, which is what we call our core beers, the rebrand on that is just really, really pleased. Every time we get the next part of that, I'm so pleased with it. So you guys have got a bit of that to come. We've got the core or signature keg beers designs coming out soon, and that'll include a couple of new additions, which we'll tell you about probably next month. But
we toyed with the idea about giving you an update on it now, but we just don't think that we're far enough along with it to do that now. So we're going to wait until we've got a more complete picture to share with you. So the casks there, for our key brands like Juice Forsyth, were there. We just need to deliver that now. But we need to now consider for our new specials, if we're revisiting a previous beer, how do we now brand those? So that's the next stage. And once we have all of that together, we'll be in a position to give you a good overview. And hopefully the rest of it will be as well received as the cast branding was, because that went down phenomenally well with people in and outside the industry.
Yeah, so the first bit we focused on is getting the more traditional and simple styles. So you've seen we've given you the information about our lagers. We were never 100% sold on the branding we used on our lagers previously, but now that specific beer is so good. The guys have really refined what we do there with the two different lagers we brew. We want to make it more and more widely accessible and get it into more venues. And the mass appeal of trying to get the lager into a venue where maybe people don't really understand craft beer. They don't care if there's a golden eagle flying across the front of the keg round. They want to know what that is, and they don't necessarily know what golden eagle is, so they wouldn't know that was a pilsner. So that's why the attention switched to front and center. This is a pilsner. This is what it is. Catch your attention, and then the little bit in there is the artwork and the stuff that is really important in a smaller craft venue, but less important in a bigger.
At the heart of everything we've tried to do is to put ourselves in the shoes of the consumer, and you as the consumer should not have to work to try and identify, one, what that product is, and two, how strong it is. And so often these days with these modern craft beers, you're having to put a lot of work in to work out what something is. You go in most craft beer shops these days and you'll have this ridiculous name, and it takes something for me to say that, think about glass houses and pots and black kettles and so forth. But if you're having to pick that can up and then rotate and go, what is this? How strong is it? Who made it? You're completely lost. So what we tried to do is everything Wayne's just said there, make it simple, make it so people don't have to work, make it so people can see it from across the room. And the early results with the cast beer is good. The sales have gone up. So I think it is working. And now we need to bring that to the rest of the range.
Yeah, without losing what's Brew York about our beers, which I'm sorry, this is why we'll never do it in 2 hours, because we end up getting run off on a parallel. So we maybe come back and pick this up a little bit later on. But for now, let's talk about this beer, which is the Way to Amaretto, which is a collab we did with the guys from Umbard, which is I think probably our third or fourth now, home stroke
third,
away.
I think. Third.
So we met Jordan probably. Well, not probably. It was just before COVID hit.
It might be the fourth.
So we did a couple of virtual ones during COVID, and I think we've done 2 real ones since.
I think so. Yeah.
So real ones, virtual ones. we work with the guys at Umbard because they're passionate about beer and they're very good at what they do. They come up with great flavour combinations that work really well in beer. So when we've collabed with them, we've had a lot of input and a lot of back and forth about trying to get the beer and the idea right. So although it's a virtual collab we did in lockdown, we still worked really closely with them. Whereas we've done some in-person collabs in the past that have been less hands-on than what we do with these guys.
Yeah, sometimes it's just about personalities. We got on really well with Jordan and the team down there, and Matt, who was at Sirens, now part of the team down in Brighton, and Brett's a really good guy. So yeah, if you gel with those guys, you just want to find excuses to work with each other, basically, and this is another excuse.
And this beer itself is the third in our cocktail series that we've done. So the cocktail series of beers. First one, testing your memory now.
First one was Dex
on
on the Beach, was a Sex on the Beach pale.
And then the second was Divine Coffee Inspiration,
which was a coconut espresso martini stout.
And then now we've got the Way to Amaretto, which is an amaretto sour, which is based on an amaretto sour. So you guys on the stream gave us a lot of feedback last time when we asked about cocktails beer, what would you want, and this was the idea you guys suggested the most of. I think the beer is really, really good. I really enjoyed the fact that it's super cherry. It actually tastes quite like the cocktail. I wouldn't say it's exactly the same, but it's as close to an amaretto sour as I think we can probably do in a beer.
Yeah, what I think, as we've said in the script, there isn't a universal concept of an amaretto sour. In fact, that's kind of true for any cocktail. Every venue likes to put their own little twist on things. So what you definitely have is amaretto, lemon, and egg whites. That would be your typical amaretto sour. And then sometimes they put cherry in. We really like cherry, so we've gone with the cherry route.
And for the amaretto itself, Italian liqueur that's made with apricot kernels.
Yeah, apricot kernels. Yeah, but it can be made with apricot kernels, peach kernels, plum kernels, or you could actually use almonds. And the reason you use all those kernels is because they've got cyanide in them. But cyanide in a concentration that's not going to kill you. But cyanide, I don't know. I think I heard this back in school. If you smell almonds, that's cyanide.
Yeah.
So cyanide does taste like almonds, very, very like almonds. I remember Polly and I, we went to. She's not listening now. Right. Okay. Where did we have a dessert that was made with a peach pit that tasted very like almonds? Oh, now I've got her. So we went to the Black Swan, which is what
Tommy Banks.
Old Swan. Have I got it wrong?
No, Black Swan in Ulstead. That's
Black Swan in Ulstead. Yeah. Which is one of Tommy Banks. Tommy Banks wasn't as famous back then. He's a huge star these days. And that was the first time I'd had a dessert that was made with the pit of a stone fruit. And it was gorgeous. So that's how I first realised that this is the kind of thing you can do.
And you've used a little bit of Tonka in there as well to enhance it. So why wouldn't we? It's a beer, let's use Tonka.
Exactly.
But it works well with cherry, and it also has a similar almondy type aftertaste. So kind of enhanced the flavour on it. But I really enjoy this one. I really, really like the espresso martini one last time round. If I'm 100% honest, I wasn't as keen on the coconut twist on that one. The espresso, the coffee came through so well.
I think it was probably unnecessary. We probably could have just gone backed ourselves with the coffee. I think you're right.
The Decks on the Beach I liked, but this is probably my favourite so far.
And I would agree.
Nice balance.
Yeah, I think this is the best of the three so far. Get your opinions in. Are you with Decks on the Beach? Are you with Divine Coffee Inspiration? Or are you with the Way to Amaretto?
So we've got one more coming up this year, which is a collab with a brewery from Sheffield called Heist. Really cool guys. We bump into them all the time whenever we're out doing stuff. So.
Last time we were drinking together was in Tampa Bay, of all places.
So we keep saying we need to sort out this collab. So it's in the diary. It's in November. And is the beer agreed yet?
They made a very good suggestion, which I'm not going to name, because there's another brewery that we're supposed to be working with that we'd already committed to do that type of thing with. It's another cocktail one. and it's a cocktail I'd never even heard of. And then all of a sudden I've got 2 breweries saying, why don't we do this? Let's just say if you'd watched Mad Men, you might have an idea what the cocktail is.
Cigarette.
No. So I've never
Smoky
watched it.
stuff.
I'm obviously aware of it,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've never actually watched it.
So, how many questions did we pick up, Pete? We got like a bank of them now.
We have a couple. 1 second.
Yeah, so rather than delving into another subject, because we do drag on a bit, we are just going to do questions at this point in time and see where it takes us.
Well, before we ask the question about what collaborations we'd like people to see us do with future, so should we run through some of those suggestions now?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
This is people you might like to see us work with in future. A meaty dessert stout with Amundsen or Vocation.
I'm assuming when you say meaty, you don't want us to use real meat in it. It's more the partner and the I was going to say beefy, which is
I think
you see
something with a bit of oomph, like a real big hitter kind of. Yeah.
Well, we're hopeful that one of those will join us for our birthday as well next year. Let's see what they say.
I would love you to do a collab with Duck Pond, the Swedish brewery that smash out amazing sours on a regular basis. So we've poured alongside them somewhere.
Yeah, a couple of times. Some of the festivals we've been at recently. We've only got one more international festival coming up this year, and that's in Norway. And I haven't even looked at who we're pouring alongside. But it's a festival that's hosted by Lervig at Stavanger in Norway, and it's called What's Brewing. So we're pouring at that back end of October. So I should probably do some research at who's going to be there to see what we can maybe sneak and come up with.
And can you flash that comment back up, please?
Oh, I got rid of it. Should I get a new one?
No, I wanted the same one so I could find out who said it. But anyway, whoever that was, sorry I missed your name. You have set the challenge to win. He now needs to go and find the guys from Duck Pond at this festival and propose our collaboration for next year.
One of the guys who joined our sales team recently, a guy called Tyler, he knows everybody in brewing. So if there's a collab that we want to do that's really out there, we wouldn't think we'd get, we keep putting the challenge to him. We've already set him a couple of random ones, and he thinks he's got some really interesting ones early next year. And the way he's luring people in is telling them that we'll do a cask collab. So for a lot of international breweries, they don't get to brew cask beer, and we obviously do a lot of cask beer. So it's actually pretty appealing on 2 fronts because our cask beer specials move really, really quickly, and we get to do something really cool with an international brewery that we've always wanted to work with. So look out for that.
So it was Bill. So you need to...
Bill.
Oh dear.
Hey!
Oh, dear.
Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, apologies for that, Bill. That will, however, make this moment more memorable, and hopefully Wayne won't forget to ask that question when he's across in Norway. Daniel Sawyer, I would love to see a collab with Merakai or Hand on the South Coast. Merakai we've had contact with previously.
Yeah, we met the guys at least.
Hand, I have to say, I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, Merakai, they make some great beers. We've got a neon sign we think is made for them, which is the I licked it so it's mine. We inherited a neon sign that said I licked it so it's mine, and it was just after COVID. We're like, yeah, that's a bit of an interesting one.
I'm missing the connection. Why would we then want to pass on?
They've got a beer called I licked it so it's mine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right, yeah. Well, I'm glad I asked because I imagine most people wouldn't know that. What else we got? Ian here, Colonel, just saying. Watch this space, Ian.
Yeah, Colonel Cask collab would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I know they don't collab very often, and obviously it would be a dream of ours to do that, and if we can make it happen, we will. No guarantees, but the question has been asked.
Then we've got a long list from Belinda.
Pretty much all of them, yeah. So we have worked with all of them, haven't we?
We have worked with everybody on that list previously. Doesn't mean we can't again. I'd certainly love, in particular, to get up to Vault City and see their setup now.
Yeah.
Out of that list. Vocation, we are working with again soon.
I'm in Edinburgh at the end of the month at a festival called Gravity Festival, and Joe, one of the guys at Vault City, pinged me a message to ask me to pop in and say hello while I'm there. So we won't be brewing while I'm there, but I will definitely go down have a chat with the guys and see what because they've grown so much since we first met them. So I'd love to see their site, drink their beers, and hopefully get a date in the diary so we can brew a beer with them next year.
Yeah, I think they started in something like 2019. And last I heard, they were the second biggest sour producer in Europe.
Mhm.
I believe Boone in Belgium is the only one bigger than them now. That's quite a trajectory, isn't it, from a standing start?
It's pretty impressive.
If it's true.
Mhm.
That's what I heard, anyway.
Must be true, then.
What else we got, Pete?
So that was enough from the collaborations, but then we also asked people as well what festivals they've really enjoyed so far this year.
which
Okay,
festivals
yeah,
do
let's see
people
what,
enjoy
yeah.
most?
So,
What have we enjoyed, guys?
Here we go.
Manchester. So we did have someone there, did we not?
No, we didn't pour at it. But
Was this the We Are Beer one?
Yeah, so we
right.
did our fringe event at our favourites, which is... Sorry, excuse me.
What happened there?
I almost joked.
That all.
So no, we didn't do Manchester Craft Beer Festival this year. Where did we pour?
Crown and
Kettle. Yeah, sorry, yeah, we did
Yeah.
a big event at Crown and Kettle. We made a conscious decision this year to not, or to be more selective about which festivals we pour at, because ultimately there's only a handful of festivals you actually make any money at. You make a profit or a return. So it's marketing and advertising. So we know that, and that's why we pour at a lot of them, because we want to promote and advertise and get out there and meet you guys. But ultimately, there's cost creeping here, there, and everywhere. So we've got to be a little bit more selective. So we did that this year, and we chose to go to the London Craft Beer Festival out of all the We Are Beer events. Might choose different events next year. Might pour at Manchester, for example, or some of the others. But we've got to be really careful, because we can't just pour at every single festival as much as we'd like to, because it's time, money. We don't have a big enough team, although we are a big brewery, to send people to every single festival. But we do try.
And for we have a team that work on events. So Pete, obviously, Rachel, and it's not a dedicated events team, because these events take place in a very concentrated period, like the 3 to 4 middle months of the year. So it doesn't make sense currently to have someone fully dedicated to that. So what we're doing is pulling in people from elsewhere, like from a bar, from the brewery, from the market team, from wherever, to go off and run these events. So yeah, we do have to be selective. And sometimes it is nice to make some money at some of these.
Yeah, and as strange as it sounds, when we were smaller, it was actually easier to do more festivals, because we didn't have as much to do in the Monday to Friday day job. We weren't as productive. We weren't brewing all the time. We weren't delivering and selling all the time, or just doing all the other things we do. So we could afford to spend more of our time going and doing the events. Whereas now, the people we employ have a lot to do in the hours they work, so it's hard to then get the balance right. But we've got a few plans next year. We'd love to bring in somebody to 100% dedicate their time to events, and find non-craft beer events to pour at as well. So if they're pouring at the non-craft beer events, they're the ones where we'll probably make some money.
And maybe some events that
fun to do
some events that aren't
stuff.
between sort of June and September would be nice. I just want to flag up a comment that's come up from Ian here there, who he doesn't promise, but he says he might stop talking about us opening a bar in Newcastle if we do a collab with Colonel.
Or if we open a bar in Newcastle.
oh, indeed, yes. Okay.
So I was convinced that Lee was going to lose the Weep Steak today, and I've been waiting, but he hasn't showed any sign yet.
Wow.
So let's go.
And what in the past would ever have given you that false belief? Right. What else we got then, Pete? So, Cyprog, PS Prog, however we're pronouncing that. Highlight was checking out a Japanese beer festival on my first ever day in Japan. Kayaki Beer Fest at Saitama in Tokyo. Well, that's not a bad way to land, is it? Straight into a beer festival. I didn't think what the pricing was like. I know we've shipped our beer out to Tokyo before. And I think our Lupul Iron that we would sell for about £5 a pint here was £14 a pint in a Brewdog in Tokyo. So if you want to get us back in touch and tell us how much you were paying per beer at that beer festival, I would be interested to know. Yeah.
So here's one for you, Lee.
Ian here mentioned it last time. and it was wet, so not the best day. But the NEB, which is North East Brewers Showcase in Hartlepool, was great, as it was quiet. I really enjoyed a good chat with me. Yeah, enjoyed chatting with you as well, Ian. There was a lot of opportunity for chat because unfortunately it was a very bad weather day, so the attendance at the festival wasn't great, but a lot of great breweries there, and getting to be up there and work with Camerons, as I've stated previously, was quite the honour. To walk around that brewery and see all the heritage that they have there, where they've put in a massive canopy and they've taken over blocks of streets. You walk through this section and there's just a sign that says Silver Street. It's a row of houses that are within their big kind of production facility. It's just incredible. And then their main brew house, the control system for it and the room for it was set up in the 1970s. So it's got this kind of Bond villain's lair kind of feel to it. And these days, they've had someone like Siemens come in and do some fancy automation technology. But yeah, they had some amazing stuff. So yeah, Nebs was good, Ian. Hopefully they get better weather next year. What else we got?
Here's the one for you, Lee.
Oh, you're not wrong there, man. Richard Wingrover said highlight was Download Festival, accepting the beer. I'll let you into a secret. The beer was so bad at Download, I drank cider the entire time I was there. Yeah. What does that tell you about the beer? It was almost 30-degree heat. Their beer was not kept greatly. So I had a choice between fairly warm flat lager or reasonably chilled cold fizzy cider. That was the option. So I drank cider the entire time I was there.
Here's one for Wayne, just to let me know he was there as well.
Wendy C, we were at London Craft Beer Festival, great venue, Amundsen beer and donut pairing a highlight.
So the Amundsen guys took our vault. So that was the vault that we used to book all the time, but it was just too much money to book a vault, so we decided to just do a normal stand. The Amundsen guys took it, and it was so cool. They had loads of different beers pouring, and they got loads of donuts made with their beer. So you got the pastry stouts paired with like a little iced donut. Lots of fun.
Were the donuts made with the beer?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I enjoyed because they just got so busy. People were just like piling into their vault like when we were in there in the past. So I just kept going in and then walking behind the bar, pouring my own beer, and then annoying the guys while they were trying to pour, and then walking off again, grabbing a donut. It was fun.
Yeah, but Jeff, random as it is, Jeff, the South African owner of the Norwegian brewery, is such a lovely guy. But he takes great pride in giving people really, really strong beers and messing them up. He's done that to you and I on a number of occasions.
We'd never fall for that. We are sensible, and we like to drink lagers to make sure we stay sensible.
But yeah, a lot of love for him, a lot of love for the Amundsen team. So I would hope and imagine we would be working with them again at some point in the future.
Definitely. So I'm not suggesting we start drinking this one yet, but I'm going to pour it because
good idea.
Let it come up to temperature and aerate like a red wine.
Oh, so we've had a reply about the beers in Japan. Japan is really cheap as the yen is weak currently. Hotels, food, vastly cheaper than the UK. It's the flight that's the £1,000 killer. Okay, I'm not paying £1,000 to go anywhere for cheap beer. Right, but yeah, thanks for the update on that one. I missed the previous one. It's about the same as the UK for a craft beer. You're looking at about £6 for a pint. But a smaller pint generally. So I think that makes it about a 440 sort of size, doesn't it? I went to the Brewdog in Roppongi. Slightly more expensive than the UK, but not crazy. That is the Brewdog. That is the one where we had the £14 pints in.
So this is back actually when the Rugby World Cup was there 4 years ago. So Rugby World Cup's in France, if you didn't know, and we're playing Japan this weekend. England are playing Japan this weekend. It's going to be a tough game for the current England team. Hopefully we get through that.
Well, they've done better than we expected they would so far.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
They've got to win, so that's...
I still don't think he'll be with us beyond the tournament, but let's not dwell on that one.
No. So what time are we on? 8:20. Is it time to put this to one side and triple park and move on to the stout?
Right, okay. So what we now have is 48-hour road trip, the barrel aged version. So the original version of this was called 24-hour road trip. And I don't know why I didn't put this bit in the script. And it's called 24. The original beer was called 24-hour road trip because this is being brewed with the guys from Brewery, Brig Bar, which has to be the biggest bar in Oslo. That thing's huge.
It's an amazing place.
Yeah. It's like multi-floors. There's like, I don't know, table tennis tables in one direction, multiple food outlets in another direction. It's just an incredible spalling place with a massive cellar that you got the pleasure of going down to see. So those guys did a 24-hour trip across to the UK to brew this with us, and then went back. So we had conceived the idea of the beer in advance, but we didn't have a name at that point in time. But then they decided it should be called 24-hour road trip because they were kind of in and out very quickly. They had to get back to work. And it's not just a collab with Brig. There's also a distillery in Oslo called Handwerk Destillery, which I'm sure I've totally bastardized there, but it's something like that. And they make, amongst other things, akavit. So akavit is kind of, I guess, easiest way of calling it, like Scandinavian gin. So gin is based on juniper. I believe akavit is based on caraway.
I was going to say, it was certainly not as easy drinking as gin when we were across there.
I think it's caraway that it's based on. But it has the kind of same flexibility that you have with gin, because like gin these days, you've got raspberry versions, rhubarb versions, you name it. There's almost nothing they haven't put in gin these days. So akavit's kind of the Scandinavian equivalent of that. And some of it they barrel age. And we were lucky enough to get our hands on some of those barrels. So this distillery then shipped some of those barrels over to us, and we've then aged some of this beer in those barrels. But not only those barrels, because what we started out was an Imperial Coffee Rye Porter, we thought it made sense to age a proportion of the batch in rye whiskey barrels. So we've done that, and then we brought the two together to create this blend that we have now, which I've not tried until now.
Hadn't you? I thought I tried it at Leeds. It was
Ooh, don't forget the coffee.
the whole batch was supposed to be going exclusively back to Norway, but the yield was pretty good on this, and we would have been very expensive for the bar in Norway to buy it all off us. So we looked at it and we thought, well, let's can some of it, and at least we can put it into our subscribers box. And there's a handful of cans available. You're going to be one of the very few that get to experience this in can, because we've sold the rest of the cans to another place in Scandinavia. Yeah. So it was a very, very small run, and super exclusive. So we're going to try and do a lot more.
Finland, I think, is where the other ones.
I think it was Finland. Yeah. So whenever we get a chance to do some short run barrel aged beer, we'll try and make it exclusive to the subscribers, so you get the chance to try it. But then send it to where we intended the original batch to go. So pretty interesting beer. There's no adjuncts, and that's quite important. Well, coffee's technically an adjunct, isn't it? So
yeah, coffee's. I mean, it's a complex beer in terms of its malt construction, as we do with all of our dark beers. About 6 different types of malt. Obviously, one of those is rye. And then try as I couldn't remember where we got the coffee from.
No.
So the coffee also came in from Norway. So when they did their 24-hour road trip, they brought the coffee with them.
And they brought.
But I've not been able to find a record of where they told me the coffee came from. It's somewhere else in, I think it must be Oslo, certainly Norway, but I don't know.
And they brought full beans, and they were like, "Oh no, we need to crush the bean." Because normally when we do coffee infusions in the past, we've run the beer over the coffee beans and got some of the flavour from that. The guys wanted to use it to crush the bean, and
yeah, they were very insistent it had to be properly prepared.
And we don't have a commercial coffee bean grinder, so we had to borrow one of the coffee machines from the bars and just run the coffee through it and blitz it, and
and that machine's probably never been the same since.
So the guys weren't hugely happy with in the team of having to do that, but it was worth it. It's a really nice coffee flavour, but it's not too intense. Just a really nice beer. It's just we didn't barrel age it too long. I think was it 6 months barrel aged.
I think it went in the March, came out in the September, so whatever that would be. That's about 6. Isn't it? I think they took some of the non-barrel aged offers in the April.
Yeah.
So it's going to be about that.
We didn't. So hopefully you got to try some of the 24-hour road trip which was the non-barrel aged version, we did a very, very small amount, maybe like 6 kegs and a couple of casks. And if you did get to try it, if you didn't, Kev kept a cask. So there's a cask
It's on the bar downstairs.
Yeah, there's a cask on the bar downstairs, which is the non-barrel age. It's just it's barrel age. It's cask age.
Yeah, if you want to have a 9.5% cask beer, it's on the bar downstairs.
And we say 9.5, but it's 10.9, isn't it?
This is a different version because we adapted it 48 hour. It's not the same as the original beer.
Is that pouring now?
Yeah, it's on down there now. Yeah,
Tap room, yeah.
If you want to follow this 10.9 up with a 9.5, well, you're driving, Pete, so you're not allowed.
I'll let them remain anonymous. But somebody who came to York Beer Festival on Wednesday decided to drink as much of our imperial stouts as they could at about 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, and needless to say, it didn't end well. By 6 o'clock, they were ready to go home. Obviously, we suggested sensible measures, and they listened to us, but they still went home. So the malts we've used in this, what type of malt do you use in a rye porter, and what makes it a porter rather than a stout?
Oh, good question. Right, so if we go back in time, so the original beer that was made with dark malts was called the porter. And that tended to be a bit of a mishmash of whatever you had knocking around at the time. Back in the very early days, they didn't have the ability to dry malt without colouring it, because you'd be drying it over things like charcoal. Once charcoal came about, they could dry it properly. You'd be drying it over wood, and in doing so, it would pick up colour. So pretty much all malts were dark. So all original beers were kind of dark like this. So the porter was one of the most common ones, and they called it the porter because if you worked in the docks or you worked in the markets, this was the kind of beer that was just the leftovers of everything, and that's what you got served, and you'd be drinking it from about 5 o'clock in the morning. They then developed a stronger version, which they called the stout porter. And when I say stronger, you will immediately assume that means stronger in ABV. In original terms, it didn't mean stronger in ABV. It meant stronger in everything else. The body was bigger, the flavour was bigger. Over time, it did kind of morph into it being the stronger beer. So these days, there is a clearer distinction between the two about a porter's supposed to be made with roast barley, a stout's supposed to be made with a black malt or like a chocolate or brown malt. But the finest example of the stout in the world is Guinness, and it's made with roast barley. So that immediately breaks that rule.
Anspach do a great beer, the stout porter, which is basically what the original stout porter was, which is the stronger version of or fuller version of the porter. And they still do it commercially now. If you see it, it's such a great beer. You've got to try it. When they came up to do a festival, it was a couple of years back, and they brought it. And I just don't think people appreciate some of the more traditional recipe styles, which is just really simple, but just done really well. And that was such a great beer. I really enjoyed drinking that.
And I said one of the defining characteristics or differences between what we now understand to be stouts and porters is porters tend to finish drier and their bodies tend to be thinner. So me as a beer geek, I do have a little chuckle when people comment on Untapped, "Ooh, this porter's a bit thin." It's like, yeah, it's supposed to be. That's the defining characteristic of that style as a dark beer. Whereas the stout is supposed to be the more bigger bodied and generally the sweeter finishing of the dark beer style. So it's the stout that you should be looking for the big body and not the porter. Obviously, in elevated ABV, alcohol itself has a certain viscosity to it, so it makes the beer feel thicker anyway. So irrespective of it being a stout or a porter, if it's a stronger one, it should feel thicker.
And on this one, we did the coffee infusion pre-barrel aging, didn't we? So of the original.
We
brew,
did, yeah, we did.
So the coffee flavour is muted a little bit after 6 months in the barrel. So when we do some of our beers, well, most of our beers, the flavour and is infused pre-barrel aging. But for things like Empress Don Coco, we get to blend it back with the freshest a fresh batch of Emperors, and in doing so, you get all those newly infused flavors, giving a bit more life to the barrel aged beer. So that would have been a nice thing had we had the chance. And in hindsight, now tasting this, it'd been nice to do like a fresh coffee infusion blend with it. But you still get a nice coffee note to it, just not quite as intense as the original.
It's not as intense, and for me, that's not a massive coffee lover.
You like that.
This is kind of good, but I get what you're saying. If my wife, for example, who likes I don't know 3 coffees on the morning, then yeah, she's probably going to side with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I love. I don't drink coffee a lot, but when I do, I like the really intense coffee flavor. I've got one or maybe 2 coffees a week like that. But I just like it to really be intense coffee. But no, really nice beer. A lot of people, when they try our barrel aged beers or our imperial stouts, they assume they're going to have some form of flavor or adjunct or lactose or something in it. Yeah, coffee is an adjunct, but it's a very acceptable adjunct, I think, and I think it's nice when we get to do these more traditional styles, and hopefully people appreciate them.
I like doing these kind of ones because it would be easy to mask a brewing fault by ramming it full of lactose and some daft flavouring. And I'm not saying we're immune to doing that. We do a lot of that, and we've done very well off the back of that.
Yeah, but not to mask it, but because we've found ways of.
No, I'm not saying. Yeah, I'm just saying that could be associated with the use of those types of things. So it is nice for us to try our hands with these more kind of classic things.
Yeah.
We've been told off camera by Sandy that it feels very grown up. Maybe we're maturing it last week.
What we should have served in is those, our fancy.
Might give my wife a chuckle.
Our fancy teku glasses. We should have definitely been pouring them in that.
That would have been perfect.
Sip them on them properly. But then we're trying to gulp. Well, me and Lee are trying to gulp down 30 mils can in 15 minutes. We're not that grown up yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I enjoy this beer, and I'm really looking forward to it. This is one of the beers that I'm going to be pouring in Norway in a few weeks' time. So it's great to. I know the beer's already been for sale in Norway, but aquavit's a very Norwegian thing. So whenever you go out there and go to a bar, they're obsessed with trying to make you try this. And our importer into Norway took myself and Lee for a nice meal the first night we got there, and they had a menu, and the menu had like 50 plus
quite a few
different types of aquavit. And for me, it was painful because it was like, this is just like drinking whiskey. Whereas, and it's not like nothing like whiskey whatsoever, but it was quite intense and a different type of spirit.
Well, it had that raw spirit burn, which is not your thing.
And I quite liked it because I like to try something new in places you go. But I also thought this isn't the type of drink I drink. But Norwegians love it. So when they see the aquavit barrel-aged beer, I think they're going to really appreciate this.
I kind of liked it, but I thought it was a slightly strange accompaniment to a burger and chips.
The posh meal we had, yeah. So we're going to be pouring this, and we're going to be pouring our collab with Lervig as well. So it's really cool to have 2 Norwegian-linked beers that we'll be pouring out there.
Fantastic. Yeah. I don't really know why our beers have taken off in Scandinavia in the way that they have. Maybe because we worked with the
heritage.
Well, definitely our Viking heritage. Maybe because we worked with the likes of Amundsen and so forth in the early days and got our name out there. I don't know what it's been.
People just mistake us for fat Vikings when we go out there, so we just blend in.
And they do. I mean, we pour at a beer festival over there, and they come up to us and talk to us in Finnish or Norwegian, assuming we're going to know what they're talking about, and we don't. But yeah, it's always entertaining.
So what have we got coming up then? What's happening next?
Right. Well, if we talk about the beer box next time round, we've got a very interesting collab to start us off.
We haven't even. This is first.
No one knows about this yet, and now we're going to have to let out the bag. It's a very unusual collab. You know how we were saying earlier about trying to do things outside of the beer world and work with some interesting parties. So anyone remember Jerry Anderson TV?
Yeah.
Who did Stingray, Thunderbirds?
Captain Scarlet, obviously.
Captain Scarlet. So we did Thunderbirds. And one of their shows, Terrorhawks, celebrates its 40th anniversary in October. So we're doing a Terrorhawks beer.
We're doing the beer to celebrate their 40th anniversary. and it's really like full circle for me, because when I was naughty as a kid, I was petrified of Zelda, and my parents recorded Terrahawks, and if I was ever naughty, they'd play Zelda back, and I'd be petrified. So it used to scare the crap out of me, and the beer's dedicated to Terrahawks, and it's got Zelda on it. It's going to be amazing. And what's even more amazing is date, Pete, start of October.
7th of October.
7th October, the team and the puppets are coming to site. So we're going to do something here at the in the Hoptail Lounge. We're going to do some screenings of Terrahawks. We've got some of the voice actors coming up to talk through it, and the beer launch. And Zelda hopefully will appear in between as our guest on YouTube.
Our real hope is that Zelda's going to come and do some beer tasting with us.
That'd be so funny. But yeah, I think I will maybe bring a spare pair of underwear.
Maybe you could get some Jerry Anderson branded underwear.
So yeah, that's exciting. That's going to be
and that's beer one in the box next month.
That's a 5.5% hazy. So and the production team, who most of them have never even heard of Terrahawks in their life, have came up with a really cool recipe for this one. So watch this space. And
then the next beer up is we have brewed a fest beer, otherwise known as a Märzen, with Simon from Real Ale Craft Beer. We did a sneak preview of it at Leeds International last week, and it seemed to go down pretty well. And then the beer itself will be in your box next month. I'm itching to tell you about the branding, but I think we'll explain that next month.
You'll see it for yourself next. The beer comes out, launches next week, but obviously it was too late to put it in your box for this month, so it'll be in next month's box. But the next beer is another one I'm really excited about, which is the next in the Juice Forsyth range. So we've probably told you about this, or if we haven't, we told you in person at a festival.
We must have let the cat out of the bag.
The next iteration is Dark Fruits Juice Forsyth. So anyone who likes a bit of dark fruits, they're going to hopefully love this.
So it's going to be a blackcurrant and blueberry version of Juice Forsyth.
So still 5% like the original Juice Forsyth, but a autumnal theme on it.
And then we finish off with Biscoff Tonkoko.
So that's the newly launched variation of Tom Coco. We previewed it again at Leeds, and the keg, we only took one keg, and it kicked so quickly. So it was the first beer that we sold out of, and it was really, really popular. It's only 7.5% because it's based on the Imperial Tom Coco base recipe with the Biscoff edition. But I think that's probably why it's so popular, because in my opinion, Imperial Tom Coco is still the best balanced beer we do of the Tom Coco range. It's you can have a pint of it if you want, and you still be able to walk home.
It depends on what point in the evening you have it, I guess.
No, it's a great base beer to work with on this, and if you like Biscoff, you'll love this beer.
And spoiler alert, Pete, behind the camera, Pete, has done a video with Sam, our export manager, to promote this beer. We hope it's going to be the first in a series of interviewing different members of the team to promote each of our new releases. And I can see Pete powering up his mic, so I think he might have a few thoughts he wants to share on that.
Mic check on too.
Yeah, this is just a very new thing that we've literally just talked about today. And yeah, for a long time, we've wanted to add a few more bits of content on our YouTube channel other than the live videos that we do once a month. So yeah, just in our first video interview with Sam, I think she featured on the stream for International Women's Day alongside Rachel and the rest of the females at Brew York. But yeah, it was a cracking session. I showed these guys the first draft of the video before we started the stream tonight, and yeah, we're hopefully going to get that over in the next week. So watch this space. If you've not done so already, make sure you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, and make sure you hit the bell to get notifications when we set up new videos.
New content.
Ever the marketeer, Pete. Thank you.
Oh, you can tell I work in marketing.
Yeah, so Sam has done an amazing job with that video. Unfortunately for everyone else in our team, she's set the bar really high. So let's see what everyone else can do when their turn comes around.
Yeah. So we've already mentioned the next beer. We said it earlier. Unfortunately, a logistical miscommunication meant we didn't get into the stratosphere in time to put it onto the box this month. So apologies that your box came out a little bit late and you still didn't get the lineup you were expecting. On the plus side, you're going to get into Stratosphere next month, and you're also going to get the next version of Hop Sessions, so bonus.
And Red Panda.
And Red Panda. So we've got the Red Panda new recipe, Red IPA coming in as well. So really, really cool box. There's lots of interesting new stuff in there. And I don't know what the fillers are, but we never really know that until we get closer to the time.
Well, Andy works that one out, doesn't he? Then, just to recap, some of the other events you can find either myself, Wayne, or other members of our team at in the next month or so. So, at the York Food and Drink Festival, you will find myself at the beer and cheese tasting, which is going to be 5 p.m. on 23rd of September. 7 p.m. that same evening, we have James Dowswell, the Beers of a Clown, the comedy beer-related routine. You saw his little plug earlier on. Then
Saturday, it's Digby's hosting the Patisserie Valerie beer and cake tasting. Amazing event. The first few we did in the tap room sold out so quickly, and it went down a treat. So yeah, if you're around and you want tickets, that I'd definitely recommend it. Who doesn't love some cream cakes and some beer on a Saturday afternoon? We've then got our signature beer tasting a couple of days later, 28th of September. A guided tour of Brew York's signature beer. So. You guys joining us, maybe don't drink our signature beer as much as you want to. Come back.
And then we venture into some new territory in terms of pairing. We are doing a beer and coffee tasting alongside Divine Coffee.
Is Tom involved in that? And I suggested Digby should speak to Tom about giving his love of coffee.
Possibly. I'm not aware of it. It could be.
Tom's our head brewer, if you don't know
that. So that's 29th of September. And then...
Same day, yeah, for Friday, Saturday, I'm off up to Edinburgh with Tyler. We're going to go and pour some beer at the Summer Hall in Edinburgh, which is a really, really cool venue. It's just on the outskirts. Well, I say outskirts. It's about a 5-minute walk out of town. There's 6 or 7 different, no, probably 10 different breweries pouring beer. It's an all-inclusive festival. I don't know how the ticket sales are going, but if you are in Edinburgh, come along, say hello. If you can't make it to the festival, I'm going to be ducking off on the Saturday to go see our good friend Colin. Colin used to be the manager at the Pavement Vaults here. He moved up to Edinburgh probably about a year ago, and he manages a bar called the Eastway Tap. So we're going to do a Meet the Brewer tap takeover there on the Saturday. So if you're out and you want to do one of the 2 events, come and say hello. What else have we got?
No, that's it. We're going to do some more questions, and then we just need to tell you about where we're going to be next time. Okay, so we got any final questions, Pete? Or do we have any in the room, perhaps? Yeah. Daniel Sawyer, any plans to work with Divine Coffee on a barrel-aged coffee beer?
So we didn't go quite strong enough on the first beer. We only went at 7.5%. So you probably could barrel age it, but you're at high risk of losing the beer because of bacterial infection or something like that. So possibly, we won't rule it out.
We're being a little bit cautious when it comes to barrel aged beer at the minute. We're not going to go through all the tax stuff again. If you want to know about that, watch the last video back. Let's just say it got a lot more expensive for strong beer. So we're kind of waiting to see how the market balances out again now and see if people are willing to pay the extra it's going to cost you for these bigger beers. If you are still willing to pay that price, we'll make a few more. But we're just waiting to see how it kind of plays out at the minute.
It was interesting actually. From August, when the new duty kicked in, sales of our Imperial Stouts rocketed. And I think, and this isn't sales direct to consumer to you guys at home. This is sales into the on-trade, so to pubs and venues. I think the pubs and venues got a little bit panicky and scared that people are going to stop brewing Imperial Stouts. So they looked at what was available and bought what they could. And we took the relatively sensible decision at the time to prepay all our tax on all our Imperial Stouts back in July. So we ended up with a big tax bill because we prepaid the duty to lock it in at the lower rate, which worked in our favour because then everyone bought those beers off us in August. And it didn't hit us as hard as it could have. And I think that's maybe why people bought it, because the beers were still at a good price. I think people are pretty nervous still. They're still worried about whether breweries are going to continue to do this. We will always have Imperial Stouts. We're just not going to brew huge volumes of them. and we're going to focus on what you guys want to buy. So if you really like your imperial stouts, then we'll brew enough of them to service you guys. We won't just brew loads of it like we used to and try and sell it to every different venue we can.
And there's another option we have. If we sell a big beer like that out of country, it travels without the tax burden. So we do have interest in Scandinavia in particular for these types of beers. So if we make what they need, and then we make just a little bit extra on top of that for those people who are still willing to pay the price in the UK,
Which is mainly you guys.
then we think there's an avenue there worth exploring at least.
Yeah, definitely. So don't worry, we are still going to be doing imperial stouts. You just won't see us dropping new ones every single month like we probably did sillily in the past.
We did that for a long time, a very long time. Yeah.
Just going to have to stockpile your imperial stouts.
Can you make them just for staff every week?
Staff stouts, yeah.
Can we make them just for staff?
Well, yeah, we can get the guys.
We're going to need some thirsty staff looking at the size of our vessels.
Get the guys in the pilot kit brewing the imperial stout, so you can only get them in Hanley and only if you clean a vessel for us.
So Tom Foss has asked, will Christmas beers be in the box? If so, when? I think it's not next month, it's the month after, I believe.
So yeah, next month's box, which is the going out early October, will not have the Christmas beers in. It's got the ones we just talked about. The free Christmas beers, 4 if you're a gold member, will be going out in the November box. So we'll be talking about them early November.
Yeah, if there's one thing we've learned, we give you them in October, it's too soon. We give you them in December, it's too late. So the Goldilocks zone would appear to be November. So that's when you're getting them.
So another question I think we've been asked a few times is, will we be doing an advent calendar this year? No, we won't. We won't be doing an official advent calendar. What we will be doing is we've got a very small amount, I think about 40 to 50 advent calendar boxes. We're going to give them to Julia in our gift shop in York, and we're going to let customers come in and pick their own advent boxes. So make your own, and then that'll be an amazing gift if you've got a beer drinking friend or family member who you think you'd like that, or even if you buy it for yourself. I think it's a great way to do it rather than it's I've got to be honest, it's really disheartening when we go to a lot of effort to put an advent box together and people are like, oh, it's just core beer, it's just this, it's just that. We can't please everyone. It's a box that's aimed at a lot of people. So we decided this year we won't try to please everyone. We'll let you guys try and please yourselves. But here's your box. Choose which beers you think are going to work, and yeah, and then there's other advent boxes that are multi boxes out there that we'll probably supply some beers for. But yeah, the gift box thing in our shop, there's going to be discount on that, so you won't just pay retail price. Whatever the retail price of those 12 beers would be, you'll get a discount off that. So there will be an incentive.
I like those custom ones; they're good. I did that with whiskies. I did, yeah,
for yourself.
Yeah. I spent about 200 quid. Yeah, you could get because it's 5 CL samples, so you get these rare whiskies. They'd be 400 quid to buy the bottle. So I was getting all these things, but then I was getting loads of cast strength ones. So Polly, I think I've still got some of them, haven't I? Because they're about 60%. It's well, for a Tuesday night, I'm not sure I fancy a shot of 60% whiskey, especially not one that's probably been about 20 quid a shot. So yeah, there's probably better ways of doing that.
Definitely. So we've got another thing we should probably talk about, which is next month's tasting. So we're doing YouTube. The boxes will go out a little bit earlier again next month, back to hopefully within the first 4 days of month end. And we're going to do the tasting on Wednesday the 11th
in
Pocklington. So anyone who lives in Pock or lives nearby who wants to visit, we're going to be doing the event in Pock. So we will have to restrict the number of people who can attend, because we're going to go upstairs, I guess, because we can't take up the downstairs area. But we'll be hanging around before the live tasting, and then we'll be hopefully hanging around a little bit afterwards to be able to try and get back to York with an amazing public transport infrastructure. So we'll book a minibus, mate.
That's October. We're working on our plans for November, but one date we can also confirm And, and I might get told off by my wife. Actually, I just
She's
realised
this.
I've not told you this. Friday, the 8th of December, which is my 45th birthday, we will be in Handley Tap doing YouTube then.
I hope we've got good food.
So I'm hoping a few of you are going to come down and celebrate my birthday with me.
Lee's wife's not going to be coming.
But she shook her head at me at first, then she smiled, so I might have got away with it.
So yeah, we
any final questions, Pete, before we go?
Yeah, I've got a couple. Here's one.
What will your next series be? Like a showstopper, etc. I think the next one to come around doesn't have a name as yet. Well, it probably does. The birthday set. So we're working on our plans already for the birthday next year. So our birthday is officially the 9th of April, albeit the party is it about the 19th, 20th? 20th? Yeah.
So one of the things we've decided this year is we won't go as big as we've done in the past. It's our 8th birthday, but we don't want to put a 8 beer set out because we just know that a lot of people won't be able to commit to that type of thing. I've seen a few breweries do some really good things where it's their birthday, so they bring a new beer out every month, a really exciting thing. We're not going to do that, but what we are going to do is maybe three or four really cool beers where we work with lots of different breweries on each different beer, and you guys will hopefully be able to get involved in all that.
Yeah. Well, what we're aiming to do is there'll be one multi-brewery one, and then there'll be some other options where we will ask you, which of these do you want us to brew? Which of these do you want us to bring back? Which of these we've done previously do you want us to do a twist on? So you will get to vote on an online poll. I imagine Twitter, because that's who's not. Twitter doesn't exist anymore, does it? On that, yeah, you will get to vote. Assuming it still exists and we haven't all migrated onto Threads or whatever by then, you'll get to vote on which option you want us to create.
On our website, where we can vote on our website or something. We will find a way of doing it so there's anyone can access it. So, one more question.
No, I think we've got.
Just following on from that, asking about the series. We were chatting about this in the office because some wonderful person brought in loads of biscuits into the office earlier on this week.
Oh, we spotted.
Yes. I know, that's right. And so like then we started discussing in the office, like, what if we did a biscuit series?
Wagon wheel.
It's a good suggestion.
Yeah. And it was one of these things where, again, we can't think of anyone else that's done this before, but it feels like one of those really obvious series that someone must have done it at this point.
Well, do you know what we need to do? Because one thing I spotted with those biscuits you brought in is apparently Jaffa Cake's not trademarked, is it?
Is it not?
Yeah, apparently you can call any orange disc thing like that a Jaffa Cake.
Well, there we go.
So let's do a Jaffa Cake beer as part of that series.
Yeah. But if you like the idea of a biscuit series.
Call it Amundsen, call it Jaffa Cake.
Yeah, send your suggestions in the comments for the last couple of minutes.
No, good idea, Pete. Yeah.
Pete just wants an excuse to go and get more biscuits.
Let's do one last question, then we're going to wrap it up. What have we got?
There were some great names by the audience online for the low alcohol.
Oh, well, we've had some. Right.
Got the name correct.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. So, right. Well, go on. Can you flash up some suggestions for the name?
One was Gruffalo.
Oh, Gruffalo is one apparently.
That's good.
That's
That's good
good.
if you're trying to appeal to kids.
Yeah.
Slow.
Sloth. Yeah, it's got LO in it. You're not far away with sloth, to be fair. Armadillo. Yeah, good.
I went for Low Tiger, just to throw.
Low Tiger. Yeah, not familiar with that
What
one.
was the Dime Bar advert? The armadillo.
Armadillo. Crunchy on the inside. No, not crunchy. Soft on the inside, crunchy on the outside. Yeah. Right. Well, it's probably going to take Pete an eternity to find the right answer, but the right answer was.
Right, here it is.
Oh,
There we go.
there we go.
Low Loris.
Low Loris.
So we're not going to go as far as Low Loris, but Loris is going to be the name of the low ABV beer. So,
And they're beautiful looking animals, so we look forward to seeing what our branding company are going to do with the artwork on that one. Okay, right. We were doing one last question, but
Well, here's one.
Can we get some beer mats on the box,
Oh,
or would you
well,
rather they were in the box?
Yeah, we should maybe get Waters has a. I'm sorry to call you out, Waters, but you've got a whole like pack of lots of packs of beer mats that you put in boxes, but you didn't put them on our subscribers' boxes.
Oh, okay.
So sorry, yeah, we will. We've not from the current ones because we're pretty much out of beer mats, but we've got some new ones on order. They'll be here in hopefully 2 to 3 weeks. Hopefully that's not quite in time. Hopefully they're in time for your next box. If not, they'll be in time for the box after.
Get the minion on it.
Yeah.
The Joanna minion.
We should maybe sling in the old keg lens and stuff because we've a few things kicking about.
Yeah, we'll use. As I said, what we'll do is instead of a beer mat, we'll put you a semi-permanent beer mat, a cup holder. We'll give you an old keg round in every subs box. So it's plastic, so it's washable. It'd be like a coaster. So you heard that here first. We'll put one in each of the subs boxes next month.
And before we go, can I just say that I well and truly won the sweepstake
But you're
this month?
desperate now, aren't you?
I'm not actually.
Aren't you?
Is this where you reveal you've got a bucket?
He just pissed himself. He gets some.
I think this is where we realised that I had a clear dehydration problem before we came on air.
I know.
So yeah,
It's been a warm day today.
so I think on that lovely note, I think we'll wrap up there. So thank you to everyone who's joined us live and to everybody who has joined us online. As a reminder, we will be back next time on Wednesday, the 11th of October in our Pocklington venue, the Market Tap. If you have any feedback you'd like to get to us in the meantime, please contact us at info@brewyork.co.uk. And a very, very final thing, a big thank you to Pete once again for all the work behind the camera. Right. Cheers.
Cheers, Pete.
See you next time. Cheers.
Bye.